Hey guys, it's Wednesday, March 8th, and this is Newswave. So if you've been following the entire Nintendo Switch release, you know that there are some issues with the system. People are kind of bringing them to the forefront for a lot of other people, and the biggest issue seems to be getting your system scratched by the dock when you put it into the system to then show up on your TV, take it out, put it back in. People are experiencing scratches, and when I did take the system apart, definitely the dock, I could see that internally that part was kind of bent towards the system, and it didn't really have much to protect it on those rails going down. It's plastic. If the screen does come in contact and there could be dust particles or anything else on there, yes, it can put some like very small minor micro scratches on there that then show up in the light if you hold it a certain way. Yes, it can scratch your system. So when the listing on Nintendo's site went down or disappeared from the website, Nintendo.com, people started to theorize that Nintendo pulled the dock because of this. And this was heavily debated on Reddit yesterday. Everyone was talking about it. There was a Reddit user by the name of Dystopic. They were really talking about how the dock was damaging the Switch, it was scratching it, and it doesn't happen to everyone, but if it's happening to people, that is an issue, obviously. So people are thinking that, oh, Nintendo pulled this item off of the shop because they found that there were issues with it. Well, that's not completely the case because Gizmodo actually talked to them, and this is what Nintendo told us. So in an email, Nintendo of America, one of their representatives, told Gizmodo, the dock wasn't pulled from the replacement refurbishment store, it's out of stock. As previously announced, the Nintendo Switch dock set, which includes the dock, HDMI cable, and an AC adapter, will be released spring 2017. Before, they were just kind of selling the dock, to my knowledge. It was about $60, but they want to sell the entire thing as a package for $90. I assume they just want to make sure you get everything so you don't have to try to piecemeal it together. That kind of makes sense for the end user who just wants to buy it, take it out of the package, hook it up to their TV, and be done with it. And of course, the dock does at least give you options to move your Switch around the house without having to take your dock with you. So yes, an extra dock makes sense. I do wish it was a little cheaper, but it is there. At least it's an option. You don't have to buy it, but it's not, apparently it's not recalled or anything like that. Nintendo still sees it as fine the way it is, no big issue. And they are releasing it as a full set. It should be spring 2017. And we had some news around Crytek in the business world of video games. We talked about Crytek in the past on other episodes of Newswave where they were having issues paying their staff. Specifically, certain developers were going months at times without being paid any money, people who are working on games or the engine for them, and that was obviously an issue. Some of them left, some of them stayed. I guess they eventually got some of those staff members figured out, others maybe they had to let go, but in a move, I assume, to secure their financial future, Crytek did move one of their studios, which is Crytek Sofia, over to SEGA of Europe. So SEGA Europe and Creative Assembly acquired Crytek Sofia, also known as the Black Sea Studio, in, again, an effort probably to cut costs, move staff over, and SEGA was probably more than happy to acquire a studio that obviously has talented programmers and designers there. And in this case, it looks interesting because this usually means that SEGA, or the company that acquires these, has to be getting ready for some sort of game in development, or maybe they saw these members of that studio as an asset for a game that is currently happening. In this case, Creative Assembly has recent projects like Total War, Warhammer. They actually even did Halo Wars, worked with Halo Wars 2, and Total War Arena. So they do have projects that are going on right now. Obviously, Halo Wars 2 came out, and they're still working on some other ones. This tells me that maybe they were looking towards the future to add people to their staff. Now, this studio had previously been working on Arena of Fate, which is a free-to-play action strategy game that is into closed beta, to my knowledge now. So it hasn't finished yet. I'm not really sure what's going to happen now that they have been acquired by SEGA. Maybe they are still going to finish it, or I don't know what Crytek owns parts of that. It's hard to say at this point what's going to happen with that game. I assume it will still push forward. Crytek probably pushed this studio over to SEGA after they had finished their core components of the game. But if you're a fan of that game, I would start to really look into it, or at least maybe you're in the closed beta and you like it, because there's a chance that game is either being cut down, or maybe it's at least finished to the point where they can start open beta after this closed beta finishes. Either way, keep an eye on SEGA, because it's hard to say why they acquired them, but again, they must have something in mind, whether it be a game or just updates to their current games that are coming out now. And if you feel that Breath of the Wild, the new Zelda game, may be a little overwhelming when you first start it, maybe the map is really large, you're trying to figure out what to go do, well, there's a huge fan base here that is actually building a map that can kind of act as what they say, kind of a Google Street View or like a roadmap for you. Just if you want to find certain things without having to, I guess, wander around aimlessly, they're going to make an entire encyclopedia map of where everything is in the game. Now, the very high resolution map is currently in alpha. Now, they've been adding a lot of information to it. Of course, they are pulling from sources all over the place. Anyone who can help, because the map is so large, is submitting information. They're putting waypoints here, they're putting shrines there, and it's a pretty cool community project. All Zelda fans coming together. It is live, so you can use some of it. Now, I don't think anywhere near all of it is done yet, where they're placing, waypoints and marks and everything. It's live right now over at zeldamaps.com, game equals Breath of the Wild. I put that down in the description for you guys if you just want to check it out. I assume, though, that there are spoilers there. This is almost like back in the day, how you'd buy like a Prima guides to look at how to get things in the game. Think of it that way. So if you look at this map, you may see waypoints that might tell you some spoilers, so be very careful of that. Or maybe you don't want to know where things are at all. Just don't go to that link. But if you're curious, maybe you've been playing for quite a while and you're worried you missed something, you can go down there and look. Or maybe you're struggling for one of those memories or whatever. Just go down there, take a look if you want to see, and maybe there's one you're missing out on you can find pretty easily. But it's pretty cool that this game is so good that it's bringing these fans together just to try to complete an encyclopedia roadmap of the entire game. So it's just a big crowdsource, a lot of people just having fun doing it. Very cool to see. I look forward to it when it's completely done, just to make sure I get everything in the game when I get done and I'm 100-something hours in and I have like 3% or 4% left to go. Just find those little tiny things that are left. So last year at E3, Bethesda announced their Quake Champions game that's coming out, the big new arena shooter that's coming out. Well, now they're actually doing closed beta signups. The last time we really saw a big showing of Quake Champions, this was over during QuakeCon 2016. They showed off just how fast this game is. It's very fast game, which will support 120 hertz monitors. So it's gonna be kind of like that old school, very quick, very fast shooter kind of game. And they're doing a closed beta just to kind of make sure the game is balanced, it's set up well. And if you just want to try it out and maybe help with the game development, go over there, get signed up. I'll put a link down in the description for you guys so you can just click it and at least get your name in the hat to try to be picked to play in this closed beta. And Switch sales are still coming in. We're still waiting for reports. A bunch of places I talked about yesterday how we got reports from Japan and the UK. Well, now numbers from France have come in, and it's a big one. So as reported by France retailers and everything, they've pulled it, they figured out how many systems have sold through. It's 105,000 units, and that's over the course of Friday, Saturday, and more likely into Sunday, because they say just the weekend. Well, that's a good bit considering the goal was the Wii's target that they hit of 95,000. So they have sold more than the Wii in France in that same launch time period that the Wii had. And that's big for Nintendo because they set this goal that was pretty high with the Wii, and they hit it with over 10,000 units. That's pretty big. I think a lot of it has to do with their marketing with the Switch right now, where they are really pushing marketing heavy. I mean, there's ads everywhere. They're having people like John Cena hold the Switch. They're showing up during the Super Bowls. There's so many ways that Nintendo is trying so hard to push this system, more so than they ever have in the past. And according to a lot of people, this is the biggest launch in France since the 80s. And that's a really big deal for a system that has had a lot of people question what's going on. Is Nintendo serious about this system? Yeah, it looks like they are. And sales are going to prove it going forward. If there's a lot of systems out there to sell through to, you're going to get a lot of game companies, indie companies, whoever developing for this, since one, it's super cheap to develop for, obviously, since a dev kit's $500, and a AAA company is going to look at the amount of users that it can sell through to and the attach rate. The attach rate is very, very important. I think a lot of people fail to realize that attach rate is that important, because a lot of times you may release a game for example, the PS4, and it sells, let's say, 1 million units. Well, that's a very low attach rate considering there is 50 million PS4s out there, but you've only sold to 1 million of those consumers who should have a PS4. Now, mind you, some of those people have 2 PS4s, and that's fine, but it's very interesting to see what the attach rate will be of the Switch going forward, to see how many let's say Zeldas are sold compared to how many Switches are out there. I assume that attach rate has to be very high, considering Zelda is the game to get on the Switch. We'll see more, though. We really need to know the North American numbers. Absolutely. The Americas are very important. I think the United States will turn in a big number for the Switch. And then we also need to know places like Australia and Mexico, all kinds of places still need to turn numbers in Canada. So we'll see going forward. But it looks like, based on just estimates from a lot of analysts and everything, it looks like the Switch probably got to 1 million units in its first couple days. And that is very impressive. It's the same as the PS4. It's the same as the Xbox One, which tells me that Nintendo did not short this launch. Good for Nintendo. It's good to see that the Switch did well. So let's move from the Switch very quickly over to something that was very interesting that happened yesterday. For some reason, I'm not really sure what's going on with Activision right now. They keep making fans mad, and I just don't understand what their logic is here after putting out a game that most fans just did not like with Infinite Warfare. I'm not saying all, most, but we get this announcement that the remaster, of course, which everyone bought Infinite Warfare for the most part to do, was play the remastered version. Well, I guess Activision decided that it was a good idea to try to upsell it further. They're releasing a DLC that came out about 9 years ago. They're releasing it, they're selling it, and it's going to be more than it was 9 years ago. So the DLC pack that we're talking about is called the Variety Pack. It's going to come with 10 rare supply drops, 4 maps, all of which came out back on the original Call of Duty back in 2008. And these were Broadcast, Chinatown, Creek, and Kill House. And this entire DLC pack is going to be $14.99, which is $5 more than it originally was back in 2008. This map pack does come out on March 21st on the PS4 with a later release date on the Xbox One and the PC. I think a lot of people were expecting this to be free, especially after the Infinite Warfare that bomb that kind of came out. It did not go over as well with fans, especially as Activision would have liked. It still sold well because it's Call of Duty, let's face it, it's going to sell well, but did not sell as well as predecessors. Things like Black Ops 3 outsold it, and overall, I think they could have done a better job, especially since they took this remaster and they packed it in with a very expensive Legacy Edition that was $80. So I think they really put fans off big time here, because these fans had to spend $80 on this game, and most of them, I can tell you now, probably did not play much of Infinite Warfare, just based on a lot of people online, people I talked to in actual physical brick and mortar stores, and overall, I don't think Activision did very good for their image here. And now they're coming out with a trailer, which, by the way, the like to dislike ratio on that trailer is insanely bad. You can tell people are not happy, because here's Activision getting nickeling and diming their fans who have stuck with them through what was not a good year for Call of Duty. And what do they do to reward them for sticking with them? They slap them with a $14.99 price tag on a DLC that most of these people have probably already bought in the past on the 360 and the PS3. That doesn't seem good, does it? It really doesn't, because I'm sure DLC is also coming out for Infinite Warfare and everything, so they are double dipping big time here, and you still just cannot buy that separate game remastered without buying the Legacy Edition. So I'm not really sure what was going on with Activision here. I know they have to make money, I understand, especially now because it did not do as well as they originally wanted it to, but not good. It's just not a good idea. It just doesn't feel right. You could tell that people are just not happy. It's $5 more than it was before. I'm not really sure what is happening right now, but fans are not happy. Bad decision on Activision's part. Make money with Infinite Warfare with DLC, that's fine, it's a new game, but don't release the remaster. Slap more money on top of that, just to make your fan base even madder at you. All I know is this year's Call of Duty needs to be what the fans want. It needs to be good, and hopefully from there they can kind of recover the Call of Duty franchise at this point. That's it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think about any of the stuff we talked about here. Maybe you're excited for that Zelda map, just so you can make sure you absolutely 100% that game, or maybe you want to help the project. Go over there. You can get in contact with them if you have some information about different parts of the map. Maybe you're annoyed about the Call of Duty Remastered DLC. Don't really blame you based on what's been going on with Call of Duty recently. Maybe you're going to jump over and sign up for Quake Champions on the closed beta. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I will see you next time.